Deb Cottle is here from BI. Ted Joels from Limestone Baptist Church in the UP. And then we got Ray and Annette Ronk, our missionaries, formerly from Brazil, now retired. And so we're going to make a special day of it to honor the Ronks as well in the main service. So please pray for this valuable ministry. We can send missionaries out, but if they can't get to where the people are and they can't be supplied, then it's a hindrance to them. And so this is a very valuable ministry with aircraft to do that. And you saw the website you could go to if you do care to contribute to that, and I'm sure they would be glad to have that. At this point, we're going to have Deb Cottle come up. She is from Bibles International. We've had Deb here a few times before, but she has some new things to tell us today. So God bless you, Deb.
Thank you. It's good to be here. I was telling Donna and Mike that I think your church has heard me speak the most times because you keep having me come back for your missions conference, and I love it. It was interesting watching the video because I know for a fact that Stuart taught aircraft mechanics with ethnos who have gone and served in the Philippines and in Papua New Guinea. So I feel a connection there. But I want to thank you for being supporters over the years, for your prayer support, your financial support, for your interaction with me and your involvement. I really like that. I really appreciate it, and it's always nice to get up here. And you guys are within reach. I can drive here, right? A couple of updates on me. I had cataract surgery last fall. I'm coming up on a year from that. I can see better at night than I ever have in my entire life. And that is wonderful, especially since you know how it is here in Michigan in the winter. You drive to work and home from work in the dark. So that's been a real blessing. In May, I had my second hip replacement, so you might see me with a cane going up and down the stairs because I'm still in therapy for that, but it went very well, and I'm really thankful that I'm now doubly bionic, I guess is what it is. Then let's see, what else? I have a new car out there. God provided a new car for me. The Jeep that Stuart bought a month before he died and intended to be the mechanic for, and then he left it to me, was just past where I could continue to do the repairs on it. And so God put me in the right place at the right time and provided just exactly the right vehicle for me, and I'm so thankful for that. And Sean doesn't have to worry about being the mechanic for me besides for himself. Let's see, what else? I feel like I'm more and more busy every year. I think it's good. Of course, you know, Stuart died at the beginning of the year that was COVID for all of us, and so a lot of things changed. But I just feel more and more busy, and it's because I'm being able to be more and more involved with things at church, with Awana, with fellowships of other ladies and widows, and just a lot of different involvements that God continues to allow me. And then at BI, we have added some personnel in the advancement department. You might remember that after Stuart died, I was the advancement department, and one person can only do so much. And so we have a couple, Subhash and Sandra Mutala, who joined the advancement department last year. And so that's two more bodies. And now this summer we got a new finance manager at BI, and his wife has a lot of experience with children and with publication. And so she's going to be our children's coordinator in the advancement department. And so a lot of these ideas that I've had floating around in my head, I have other people to agree with them and to help me figure out how to do them. And so I really appreciate that, but it makes me more busy too. But that's good. Job security, right? So let's see. I better put my glasses on. I want you to pick up literature. I want you to look at my table over there and pick up literature. I have stickers. The kids have already discovered those. They go great on the back of your laptop or on your water bottle or whatever. I've got some magnets there too. I have two pieces of literature that are specific to this month. One is just a little flyer that gives you the websites for two things coming up. 2 weeks from today, I will be at my church in Carson City, but many churches around the country will be celebrating Bible Day. Did you know that in 1966, the U.S. Congress voted to make September 30th World Bible Translation Day? Our Congress voted that. So I think we as Christians, it behooves us to celebrate that day. So there are some flyers back there. Every year, BI does a bulletin insert that you can use in your church, and you can celebrate on the Sunday closest to Bible Day, or you can pick another day to celebrate. But I would urge you, I've got a supply of them because I had some made up and they weren't all used. So pick these up. Even if you don't, as a church, celebrate Bible Day, those of you who have Sunday school classes and so forth can maybe do some recognition in your classes for Bible Day this year. And then every year, BI has a harvest dinner in October. And it serves a couple of purposes. It's a great time to bring people together and talk to them about what God has done in the last year and what we're projecting for the next year, what we're emphasizing as a specific project and so forth. And of course, then it's also a fundraiser when people make pledges or donations. This year, the theme for our harvest dinner is investing in national consultants. And I really urge you to pick up the briefings issue that's back there on my table, because it talks about the importance of national consultants. They just talked about the importance of nationals in that video too. Ours is a little bit different. We are Bible translation, and so it's important for us to have nationals who are there. And they mentioned I lose English words, I'm sorry. They mentioned the difficulties of travel. And we have some of the same. We have projects. If you are familiar with the news at all, you know those are not easy places for Americans to travel. And so that's one reason why this year our focus is on investing in national consultants, because the nationals are already there in that country. They do have to travel within the country, but there are many advantages to having qualified, trained national consultants in Bible translation who don't have to travel from the other side of the world. And so please, I urge you to pick up the briefings, to go on our website and look at the information about, it's in this little page, about our harvest dinner. It's a little ways for you guys to come for an evening dinner, but there are, just as they gave the opportunity, there are opportunities for sponsorship and for donations to BI and to the dinner if you feel that God would have you do that. Then another thing I'd like you to pick up, I know, I'm just a literature person, this is my job. We have a prayer guide. It's a 3-month prayer guide, and this is the one for July through September, so you've got a couple of weeks left on it. And then you can also, there's a QR code, you can have it sent to you electronically or by mail every 3 months. So it gives you some very specific things to pray for, and I would appreciate if you would take those and pray for those. One more thing, we have a thing called Lifeline Partners. And basically what it is people who regularly give gifts to Bibles International, and instead of designating it to a specific project or to a specific department, they just give it as a lifeline, so that whatever department, whatever project has a need at the time that their gift is given, that's where it goes. Some people might call it a general fund, I guess. But this was, I think I've talked to you about Lifeline Partners before, because it was one thing that Stuart was very passionate about in the few months he was at BI. And so I really like that we're pushing it even more. It used to be a program, it went a little defunct, and they reworked it. And so I would urge you, especially as individuals, churches often adopt a language, and groups of churches adopt languages, but this is a way that individuals can become involved in regular giving. Let's see. Oh, good, I have a few more minutes. I was asking some of the people last night if your church is part of the Michigan Association of Regular Baptist Churches, and I got kind of a, well, we are, but we're not. But I did want to let you know that the Michigan Association of Regular Baptist Churches has been renamed as Bridge Fellowship, with a big nod to, what's up north here. And They are working together with Bibles International this year, this fall in October, when they have their annual meeting. They are going to vote as a fellowship to, as a team, adopt one of our large projects. And so if you're a part of the fellowship, loosely or tightly, I would urge you to learn about that and become involved with that along with the others in the Bridge Fellowship. Now I have some prayer and praise things. Let me give you the praises first. Bibles International has 5 Bible projects that will be completed this year or next year and go to printing. 5 in 2 years. It's insane. It's also insanely expensive. One of the biggest expenses of a project is at the end when you're going to try to print thousands of Bibles. And so we're grateful that we have 5 projects that are finishing. We're also grateful that those 5 that are going to printing are actually already fully funded so far. Now, it could be that printing costs will go up, or that like 2 shipments of printings this year, they'll get held in customs and we have to buy them back from customs or go to an auction to buy them. We have one, you might want to pray, we have one in Indonesia or Malaysia. I'm sorry, I can't remember which place. We have one shipment of Bibles that's there and one that's in the Philippines, a Tagalog New Testament, that are being held in customs, and we're going to have to send someone to buy them at auction. So that's discouraging when we've already paid for them to be printed and to be shipped, and then we have to buy them back. But it's also a little bit biblical, the idea of redemption, right? So it keeps us humble. It helps us remember that God's the one in charge. But a big praise. We have these projects that are being finished, and they are funded, but we have many more projects. We have 47 total projects right now, I think, and several of them have severe financial needs. We've gotten more personnel, like I mentioned, especially in the advancement department, but we also got a new finance manager after 2 years without one when our finance manager retired. And so that's been a great blessing to have someone back. You might imagine wherever you work, 2 years without a financial officer can get a little dicey. So we're really grateful to have someone back in that position. And then I thought I had one more. Nope. Then prayer requests. As I mentioned, there's unrest and danger in many of the places where we have projects and where our affiliates are. We also need more personnel. Look at the banners back there on my display table. One of them lists a whole list of potential skill sets that can be used at Bibles International. You might think that all we need is people who know Hebrew and Greek and are linguists, but that is far from the truth. I don't know Hebrew and Greek. And I took linguistics many years ago in college. And a couple years ago, I audited a linguistics class taught by one of our consultants. And the biggest thing I found out in that class was that everything I learned decades ago is no longer true. They've moved on with another model and other procedures and so forth, and so I was just relearning everything. But anyway, we need people like me who, I don't know, Stuart used to say I was good at bossing. And we call ourselves administrative assistants. But we need administrative assistants, we need event coordinators, we need graphic designers, we need audio, visual people. You name your skill set, I can probably figure out where we could plug you in at Bibles International, either as a volunteer or if you are willing to go through missionary application and raise support, we can use those kind too. So please pray for more personnel. And then funds is always a need for any ministry and for our projects. It takes about $200,000 to get through a New Testament translation project from beginning to end, including printing. Costs about $350,000 for a Bible. So we're talking quite a bit of money for 47 projects that we have currently. And we're thankful for the way God continues to supply funds, but we won't turn yours away. And then my last prayer request is for wisdom and safety, especially related to the danger and for deciding on what projects to take on. We have more people coming to us saying, "Can you help us?" than we have consultants to help. And a consultant can only work on so many projects, and actually all of our consultants have more projects than they were told they would have to work on. So we need more personnel so that we can do more projects. So ask the Lord to give us wisdom as we plan for additional projects, as we plan for the ongoing of the existing projects, and then for safety, of course. In this world, safety is a big prayer request. And then back to me personally, those two for me too. For wisdom, for what I do and don't do, because there is always more to do than there is time or energy. And then for safety as I go about doing what God lays on my heart to do. And Ted, I'm giving you an extra minute. You owe me.
Thank you, Deb, for that. I learned some things I didn't know before, so that's good. And just a big, big part of the Great Commission, isn't it, to have Bibles in people's own languages. So it's just exciting to see what they're doing at Bibles International, and they have these projects going forward. So pray for them. At this time, we're going to have Pastor Ted Joles come up and tell us what's going on in Limestone Baptist Church up in the Upper Peninsula.
I'm Pastor Ted Joles, Limestone Baptist Church, in the heart of the UP with a heart for the UP. And I really appreciate the way you guys have encouraged us, both in financial support and especially in prayer support, and God works. The exciting thing is that Apostle Paul could say, "I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, for it's the power of God of salvation to everyone that believeth, the Jew first and also to the Greek." What he's saying is that we don't need to be ashamed of the gospel because it works. You know, we're not like used car salesmen to kick the tires and say, you know, it's not that at all. The gospel changes lives, and it's a joy to see that happen. The awkward part for me is that I preached my last sermon in Limestone September 28th, 2014, and then I left and went downstate, and you were a wonderful blessing there at Curtisville as well. And while I was downstate, some things happened. The culture, of course, continued to change. And also the church lost about 2/3 of its membership while I was downstate. The church became much, much smaller. And we don't really need a building program anymore. And I believe that God is in that, and I believe that the church can rebuild. But they dropped a lot of the outreaches. Now, no more float, no more in the fair. We used to pass out 1,000 bags of candy along with a tract talking about VBS and soccer camp and how to get to heaven. And no more Awana, and youth group had dropped into they called it family night, and no more hunters banquets and no more ladies outreaches. And the church the membership has dropped by 2/3. And you probably read the story in the Old Testament, how that in Nehemiah in Ezra, when they rebuilt the temple, that the young people rejoiced, and the older people, what'd they do? They cried. And you think of what was in the past, and it can really hold you back. And it was difficult to get people to look ahead and say, look, we're not just trying to keep the doors open. We want to grow and be all that God wants us to be. And how big should a church be? As big as God wants it to be. And the culture's changed. And things that used to work, like the Phones for You program, worked really effectively to call people on the phone. How did that work today? Not good at all, right? It wouldn't work. First of all, many people aren't even listed in the phone book anymore, but they'd be irritated if you called them. And you used to be able to knock on doors, and that doesn't go over very well today. And so how do you reach them? And I'm saying, Lord, you show us how. And it seems like it has to be personal work with them. And how do you get their attention? One way I get their attention, I try to cover as much of my face as I can. See that hat? I wear a hat a lot when I'm out. I don't dress up. I dress down. This is about as dressed you'll ever see me. It says, with God, there's hope. And I have a series of hats like that. The back of it says Pastor Ted. And I didn't make that cap. Someone made it for me, a guy who we'd ministered to. And people come up to you and start talking to you. And during the time that I was only pulpit filling and doing radio broadcasts and the resto ministry, I became friends with a lot of community people. They weren't afraid of me. They said, it's a good thing you're not in the pulpit. I said, how come? Well, you're more approachable. Of course, he also dressed in jeans, and that probably helped some. But I made some friendships. And I remember one guy, Carl, who I poured hundreds of hours into him. And he got saved. He came to me and said, you know, you're making it very hard for me not to believe. And then he put his trust in the Lord as Savior and kept discipling him. He said, if the church calls you, I'll start coming. And he did. And he brought Michelle. And he grieved because he'd raised his sons as atheists. And for the last 2 weeks, Levi, his son, has been in church. And they asked me to come over to their house on Monday. And they just peppered me with questions. Studying out of the Bible? And this is Levi. He was 14 going on 41. Incredibly precocious. He can beat me in chess. And God's opening up doors. And so how do you reach people? Well, this helps. You have to immerse yourself in the culture. So what do we have up in the UP? We have some agriculture, right? So you go to the fair and you admire the kids' rabbits. I like rabbits anyway. And their cows and their pigs. Do any of you guys here think pigs are beautiful? I think they are. They really are. Especially next to the mashed potatoes and gravy. But you just reach out to them. And, last week, this kid came up to me and said, he said, guess what? He said, I'm going to the skill center now, and I don't even have to go back to school. At noon, when I come home after the skill center, I get to go and help my grandpa, of course, on the farm. Why do we become friends? I go to his baseball game, and I admire his animals, which I happen to like. That helps. God prepares you for what you're supposed to do. A couple of things you can pray for. We've had terrible weather up in the UP. It's been warm. It's awful. In wintertime, we hardly get any snow, and not more than 2 feet of snow. It's terrible. And it really hurts us. And people literally say, pray for snow, because we're the winter playground of the Midwest. I don't know. I don't have all the answers to how to reach people today. I do know you have to reach and go out after them. And we hadn't had a kids program. It encouraged my heart when the church is willing to start a Bible Adventure Club. And it seemed like we weren't gaining much from it. The kids enjoyed it, but they weren't coming to church. And all of a sudden, 2 weeks ago, they started coming to church. And God is slowly building the church back. And we had a very cumbersome, they called it a P&P. Do you know what a P&P is? They kind of follow it like they would a Bible. It's called Policies and Procedures. And we're revising some of that. And people are starting to reach out. And that warms my heart to see Darren bring people in and to see someone come in because of Diane and to see, and not just me. And God's working. And we're very small. I think last week we had 26 people. And our membership's about a third what it was. But God can build it back. And people are starting to catch a vision of what God can do. And I had given this to somebody. You see what that is? It's the only thing I had left. I used to write a yearly report, and somehow it got in Diana's hands, and she said, "That's really exciting. You're really on fire." No, but the church was. God was really working in the church. And she said, everybody should have a copy of this. And so Linda went and made copies for everybody. And it shows what God has done in the past. Can God do that in the future? Yeah, He can. Yeah. Will there come a time when maybe we do need to build again? Maybe. I don't know. But I do know we serve the same God now that we served 25 years ago. And God can still do a work. And pray that God use me. When they asked me to put in, if I would consider being pastor, I said, well, yeah, but I don't have Linda. I don't have my right arm anymore. And I'm about 110 years old. And look at me. Kids aren't going to come just because they want to play football with me or basketball. I can't even throw very good anymore. And I can't hear. I said, you have to help me a lot. Well, sure, we will. And they called me. And I had a little talk with God saying, Lord, I don't have Linda anymore. And it seemed like the Lord was saying, kind of directing me to Joshua chapter 1, where God told Joshua, now Moses, my servant, is dead. Now you go up. And what did he say then? And certainly I will be with thee. Certainly I will be with thee. And Paul planted, Apollos watered, but who gives the increase? God gives the increase. And we're seeing God do that. We're seeing God open up some doors. And some prayer requests I would have for you is pray for the discipleship, that God would give me grace and strength as I disciple people. Pray for our people today, because I'm not there. And pray that God really minister through my supply, whose name is Ted, literally. And then pray that God would raise up, give me another set of hands. And somebody said, well, what you should do is get married. I got two people really, a few weeks ago, they really talked to me about that. They're in Marquette, and they're in the ministry. And I said, but I thought that was up to God. They said, well, you got to do your part. And they said, part of it is you should probably take your ring off. But Linda put that ring on my finger, and I just kind of hate to take it off. I like the fact that one time I was married to Linda, and I'm really not looking. But I don't want to prevent God from blessing me. And I said, Lord, if you smite me as a woman, I'll accept it. And God's been just blessing us where I've been asking for God to send people around and I got rid of a little house next door because I couldn't fix it. The floor was gone. I said, Lord, send a Christian there. Turns out it's a Christian who they used to send their kids to vacation Bible school. Isn't that amazing? And then next to them, Sarah came in my yard and she got saved. And she sent her kids to vacation Bible school, and the oldest is 4. But I suspect I'm going to start seeing them in church. And right next to them, a guy moved in from Kentucky. And his peak is about like that. He fell off his roof and broke 7 ribs. But he wants to move up here. And he's it's a blessing having him in church. And I've been asking for more hands, and God sent us 3 visitors last week, and they're moving just a couple miles down the road. I don't know what God's doing, but pray for me that I be faithful, that God would really use me, that God would give me the grace as I preach, that people would be fed every time that they come. When I first got there, I realized there were a lot of needs. The people were hungry, and I just preached. And God used that. I went through 1 John. Now we're going into Hebrews, and pray that God would use me in there, and that God would direct us and keep us out of blind alleys, and that God would build his church as he sees fit. Also pray for my son. And he was living in Marquette in a home where they were really rough characters, and I saw Russell start to change. He's a follower. He reasons at the level of a first grader. I mean, he's been growing, really growing. He says, I'm a terrible cook, and I said, no, why are you so tall? He's 6 foot 7 inches tall, and about 250 pounds, and a size 14 shoe. He's a wonderful calling partner, but he's really a kid. And I wanted what's best for him. I wanted him to get training. And so at the moment, he's with his Special Olympics coach down in Harrisville, getting some training in construction. I'm not sure what God has in store, but pray for God's guidance there as well. Thank you very much. You guys are a wonderful blessing. In Romans chapter 15, verse 30, Paul said, I ask that you would strive together with me in prayer. Spiritual blessings do not come from merely human endeavor. It's got to be God. I desperately need prayer. Thank you. Oh, I have hearing aids now. Thank you.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
Welcome. Good to see you, Mike.
I got one too. Thanks, Brother Ted. Be sure you folks pray for Limestone Baptist Church. Getting that work going again, and they got the right person for the job, and with God's help. Also pray for Russell. He's learning a new trade, right, in the construction. So that's great. All right. Let's see. At this time, we're going to have our missionaries, if you would, go back to your tables so that when we dismiss folks, they'll have an opportunity to speak with you, ask questions. From here on out, we have, obviously, the morning service. We have an international dinner afterwards, and then we have a Q&A with our missionaries after the dinner. And that's always been a valuable time, an enjoyable time. So please plan on staying for those things as well. So our missionaries, to your tables. Thank you. Now, don't mob them before they get to their tables, okay? Thank you.